Hiya BookTube, Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. Come to you this evening with a book tag. I was watching Steve Donoghue's channel a couple days ago and he came up with another one of his nosy tags. It's the 20 questions tag. I'll leave the link to his video down in the description. I've watched a couple others for the 20 questions tag. I watched Jason over at Byways and Bookland. That was a good one. I'll leave the link to his also. So I've seen some good answers to these. He tagged everybody, so I don't have to worry about tagging anybody because you've all been tagged already. So anyway, 20 questions. I better get started on this. So I hope you enjoy. Here we go. What's the nearest place to you that's so famous everybody knows it? And how near is it? And I was thinking, because I live in Southwest Iowa, there's not a whole lot of stuff that everybody knows. And so I was thinking maybe if we went to Omaha, that might be the closest place. Most people have heard, if you're a sports fan, the College World Series is a pretty famous event. Happens every summer, draws in thousands of people into Omaha. And that is played at Ameritrade Park in Omaha. And it is about 100 miles away from where I'm at right now. It's about an hour and 45-minute drive. We take our high school baseball players to that every summer, with the exception of this summer, of course. This summer was one of those anomalies. But we take the kids out there. They absolutely love the ballpark. They used to play it at Rosenblatt Stadium. They don't do that one anymore. They moved it to Ameritrade. But anyway, that's something that a lot of people know about, the College World Series for baseball. That's played pretty close to us. So question number 2. Have you ever had a paper cut so bad you thought you might die of it? Now, I got to think, I've had plenty of paper cuts in my lifetime. I don't know that I've had any that I thought would make me die, but I did have a cardboard cut, which is, basically a paper cut. I used to work at the grocery store. I worked there at the grocery store for about 5 years when I was in college and then my first couple years of teaching. And of course you load up all of the groceries up on the shelves, stock the shelves, and then the cardboard boxes that everything comes in. You usually break those boxes down and you take them to the back, and our store had a big old baler that we would put all the cardboard in, and then once it was all we'd compact it, and then once it was big enough, the bale was big enough, we'd take wire and bale it up, and we'd have a truck that'd come and get those bales of cardboard to take to the recycling center. But anyway, there were several instances where I was breaking a box down, and some of those cardboards they're kind of thick, and you get a cut from one of those, you're gonna feel it. And I have had, and they bleed. Paper cut like at school with notebook paper doesn't bleed very much. The ones with the cardboard bleed because it's it's thicker, and so it cuts. The cut's wider and it hurts. All right, so number 3, have you ever found anything genuinely valuable in a used book you bought? For me, I have not. I've found lots of stuff. I've found the main thing that I usually find are old newspaper clippings that have something to do with whatever the subject of the book is. So if it's a biography on, I don't know, Ronald Reagan, it's a paper clip on Ronald Reagan, or biography on John F. Kennedy, it's a paper clip, a clipping of John F. Kennedy, and that's the kind of stuff I usually find. I don't know that I've ever found money. I know a lot of people say they found money. Steve was talking about that on his channel. I've never found money. I just haven't found anything valuable other than clippings. And the clippings are kind of cool because they're a snapshot of history themselves. So I'm not complaining, but they just didn't have, I don't believe, had any value. So number 4, have you ever read, met, or married Jacques Barzun? No, I didn't even know who that was until Steve described who it was, so no. Number 5, aside from your pets, what is the specific non-human animal you see most often? Okay, so I live in Southwest Iowa, and most of the areas here in Southwest Iowa are pretty rural. And so we got lots of wildlife, where I live. But right here at my house, on my property, we have a lot of robins, the bird, you know, the robins that live in the trees. We get lots of those. We got we got these pigeons that used to live downtown, and they've torn down some buildings that are downtown, and we've torn stuff down and not rebuilt it. So those pigeons have tried to find a new place to go, and one of the places they go is that they have in the past anyway, has they have come to my house. In my backyard, separating our two houses, there's an alleyway that runs through here, and there's a power line. And they like to sit up on that power line right there. And they, last Saturday when we went and, not yesterday, but last Saturday when we went to prom, I went and washed the car. I come outside an hour later, and the pigeons had pooped on it 5 times. I mean, big mess. I'm like, are you kidding me? And so my 3-year-old and I like to try to count how many times they bombed our car. So that's a common animal that we see where we live. Squirrels are everywhere. We got lots of squirrels. My daughter and I, and then me and the dog, we take a big loop around down, we go through the courthouse yard and then through downtown and then back home. And as we're going through, there's always squirrels all through the courthouse yard. I was thinking about in our backyard, we've got a little garden. It's just a small garden, but we got rabbits that like that garden. And, we got to scare those rabbits off every once in a while. And then the other one that we got a lot of in southwest Iowa are deer. You cannot drive to any of the local towns without seeing deer, and you will see lots of them. I can remember driving 20 minutes away, and on the way there, we ran into 2 herds of deer. And when I say herds, I literally mean herds. We were counting all the deer that we saw, and we counted over 100 of them in a 20-minute drive to the neighboring town. So we got lots of deer here in southwest Iowa. That is, we see those very often. Let's see, number 6. Have you ever been inside a cathedral? If more than one, do you have a favorite? I was thinking, I'm pretty sure I've never been in a cathedral. I've been in some chapels, but I've never been in one of the big old cathedrals. So I'll tell you that my favorite chapel that I was in was I was doing my master's classes, which when I did my master's program, I did it out of Viterbo University, and it was a satellite program, so I didn't have to do very much traveling. Matter of fact, the teachers actually came to our school because we had so many people from our school doing the program at that time. They were willing to travel. But for the senior, when you go to present your thesis, you had to go to La Crosse, Wisconsin, which is where Viterbo is at. And La Crosse is in southwest Wisconsin. And so we went to La Crosse, and we went to Viterbo. Viterbo's a Catholic school. And so the Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration, Mary of the Angels Chapel. Absolutely beautiful chapel. We got to tour that. We had some downtime, and so we were walking the campus and looking at all different stuff, and we got to go through that chapel. It was beautiful. I have a lot of, I admire the chapels and the cathedrals. I've done cathedrals virtually with my kids in class because we talk about architecture from the Middle Ages. And so we go into the Cathedral of Notre Dame. We go into St. Peter's Basilica. We go into, some of those big ones in Europe, and we do those virtually. And so I've been in there virtually. I've just never been in there myself, walked in one. But they're absolutely beautiful. I love the architecture. Love the style. So number 7, have you ever been actually seeing and hearing things delirious? I was trying to think of that. I could only think of one time where I was close to it, and I still wasn't, I wouldn't even consider it delirious, but I was on my way. I was probably middle school age, and we were playing baseball in the summer, and we had a doubleheader, and I had been pitching, and I don't think I drank enough water like I should have been, and I got overheated. And I can remember my mom bringing me in between games, taking me off the field, and I had to sit over on the ground with my head between my between my knees, and all bent over. And she had taken towels and dumped them in the ice. She had a cooler of ice water and had dumped them in there and had draped it over my head, put it on the back, washcloth on the back of my neck, and they had to do that for 20, 30 minutes to get me all cooled down. And that's the time I was probably the closest, but even then I wasn't quite delirious. Wasn't doing good, but wasn't delirious. Number 8, do you have blood relatives who read for pleasure? Yeah, I do. I would not say that my family, older generations of my family, they don't read very often. I guess my aunts, I got aunts that read, but like my mom and dad and then my grandparents, I don't think they read very much. But my daughters do, my 17-year-old does. She reads regularly, and then my 3-year-old, of course, she can't read yet, but she loves to flip through the books and make up the story as she's going and loves to have us read to her. That's like an every night ritual. We'll read several books to her, and she reads them back to us in her own storied way. So I'm thinking she's gonna be a reader. And then I know they're not blood relatives, but my sister-in-laws, they all read. They read very regularly. They got great book collections. So yeah, I do. I guess I do. Number 9. How many species have you smooched smack dab on the lips? All right, so of course humans. I have my dog Clover. I have smooched her. And then when we were little, we used to have a couple horses out on the farm. And you'd go to pet the horses, and you'd be brushing them and stuff. And I don't know that I got them right on the lips, but I know I nuzzled them on the top part, between the nostrils, just south of between the nostrils. I know I've nuzzled them before. And so it was pretty close to a smooch. We had lambs out on the farm, but they got snotty noses and everything. That's absolutely disgusting. There was no way I was doing that. Number 10, do you ever listen to the radio? Any favorite program or person? Okay, so radio. You guys that are of the older generation from here in the United States, Paul Harvey. My dad was a regular listener of his program, and so I listened to Paul Harvey and the rest of the story. We listened to that all the time. I absolutely loved it. It was kind of cool. When I was in high school and then into college, I'd listen to out of Kansas City 98.9 The Rock, and they had a morning program, Johnny Dare and Murphy in the morning. And when I did construction for 5 years through high school and into college. That's what the carpenters, the plumbers, the electricians, the roofers, every one of them, the sheetrockers, they all listen to 98.9. So I kind of got hooked on that for quite a while. And it'd play rock music and stuff, and I like that. Nowadays, I listen to a couple stations. I listen to some NPR. I don't listen to nearly as much radio now as I did when I was younger. So it's just, I just don't listen to as much. So I listen to NPR radio. I listen to the Dave Ramsey show when he gives his financial success, financial advice. I listen to that when it's on, because it's on pretty regularly here in Southwest Iowa. And then we got a local station, KMA, that does local news, and they do sports, and they broadcast a lot of sports games for, every Friday night they'll have a game on, and then they'll have people reporting in all the games. And then for basketball, they always do, a couple basketball games. Probably 3 basketball games a week, maybe. They got several of them, and then they were at a couple of our baseball games this year, and so I like to listen to the local sports. Number 11, have you ever been to the Eiffel Tower, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, the Louvre? I have never been to any of them. I've never been to Europe, so can't say that I have. We did the Eiffel Tower virtually in class, and we started to look at the Louvre and didn't quite get it going because we had something go with the internet that day, and so I never got into the Louvre. I got to go back and try that because they had a virtual thing there, but in person, I've never been to them. Number 12. What little thing do you miss most that you've lost due to the pandemic? Okay, so little thing that I miss the most. All you can eat buffet at the Chinese restaurant in Clarinda. I miss that. I do takeout, but it's just not the same. You can't get the the same portions and everything. We do that after church, and we go eat all you can eat buffet, and I miss that. Let's see, just being at school, hanging out with my fellow teachers and hanging out with the kids. I miss that camaraderie. It's a big part of my life, and I love being around the kids, and like I said, my fellow teachers, and I really miss that. Had to miss track, my track season last year. We had to miss half the baseball season. This year we're going to miss the band competitions. I think they're going to do maybe one or two of them virtually, but it's not the same when you're not there watching all the school bands march and do their performances. So we're going to miss a lot of stuff, and I miss that. And then vacation. We were going to go out to this summer we had planned on going to the East Coast. We were going to go to the Massachusetts area, and I think I'd talked my wife into going to Boston. And Steve, get this, I was going to go to the Brattle. I was pretty pumped about that, and then of course the pandemic hit. And I just told my wife, there's no way we're going to do this year. Maybe in a couple years, but not this year. We're not going to chance it. And so I miss that, being able to go on vacation. So number 13 is, what little thing do you miss least that you've lost due to the pandemic? And I think this one's going to sound funny to you, but we had our baseball season this summer. It was half the season, but we still got a baseball season. One of the things we did to make things safer was the umpires no longer touched any of the balls. When they were calling balls and strikes, they'd have a ball bag, and every time the foul ball went, they'd pull a ball out and throw it back to the pitcher. Well, the umpires did not touch anything, and so each team this summer had their own bucket of balls, and when your team hit a foul ball, or excuse me, if you were pitching and the other team hit a foul ball, you had to get a ball out and throw it back to your pitcher. I thought I was going to miss having the umpire take care of all that, and it didn't end up being a big deal at all. So I didn't miss it as much as I thought I would. Let's see, number 14. What's your relationship with small talk? Do you hate it like acid, love it, or are you merely competent? Well, for me, I'm not going to say it's my absolute favorite thing to do, but I also don't, it's not my favorite thing. It's not, but I don't hate it either. As a teacher, you got to learn to do it. So I find myself competent at it. I do it because you meet all kinds of parents out in public, and you got to be able to do a little small talk. Just to, you got to keep things civil. You don't want to ignore anybody. And so I've gotten to where I'm pretty good at it. I like to talk anyway. My wife hates it. My wife is an introvert and hates to talk anyway, so she always has me go with her places because she knows I'll do the talking. And even with her friends that she had in high school, I talk to them more than she does. It's just and it's nothing against her. She just doesn't. She's an introvert. She doesn't talk as much as I do. So like if we go to a wedding, I do all the small talk. A funeral, I do the small talk. We go to any of those kind of events where you got to be able to small talk. That's my job. So I'm competent at it. Number 15. Have you ever won money at gambling? Okay. I don't gamble. I work way too hard to blow my money like that because I know the odds of winning is that they're terrible. So I don't gamble. I spend too many hours at school to just have it go away. I have gambled one time in my entire life. When I turned 21, we went to the boat and we did nickel slots. So not only did I just gamble one time, I was pretty tight-fisted about it. And we did nickel slots, and my wife had a couple bucks and I had a couple bucks. That's how we split it up. She went and blew all of her money, her nickel slots. So what is there? Would it be 40 nickels for $2? Is that right? I think so. Hope so. Hope my math's right. Anyway, she had 40. I had 40. Well, I got up $2.10. She came over, took all my winnings, lost that as well, and of course I lost the little bit that I still had. So I don't gamble. That's the very reason. I can't stand wasting money. Number 16. Do you ever give money or time to charities? Yeah, we do. I'm not going to say I'm a regular. I probably should do it more. Number 17. Do you craft, knitting, crocheting, woodworking, pottery throwing? No. I am not artistic like that. I have no abilities in any of those arenas. I do like to, my 3-year-old loves to color, you know, Crayola crayons, and so I'll sit down and I color with her quite often, and I like that. It's very, very calming and soothing. So I do like to do that, but that's not crafting. The things that Steve listed here, I do not do. And if I did, they would not be very pretty. Number 18. Do you talk to yourself when you're alone? I do a little bit. Like if I'm working out a problem, I'll talk to myself. Well, that doesn't work. Maybe I should just try this. No, you know, I'll do that kind of thing. I have read out loud to myself, which I don't think that's probably the same thing. But I did have a funny time when my teacher down the hall, Mr. V, he would come in on, I don't remember if it was Saturday or Sunday, but I was in working on college stuff, and it was a little bit more difficult stuff, and I was reading aloud to myself so that I'd, you know, better hear it and understand it. And he heard me down the hall, and he come in, and it was bugging him because he thought I was talking to somebody, and we had quite the conversation on me talking to myself or reading to myself. He thought I was going nuts. All right, number 19. Were you or are you a social queen bee in college? I was not a social queen bee or social butterfly in college. I talk. I love talking, but I would not go out of my way just to meet people. I found that people came over to our house, me and my buddies' houses, and I had no problems talking to them there, but I was not very good at going to other places to strike up a conversation. Yeah, I just wasn't very good at it. Although I talked enough that when my wife and I met, of course, she's an introvert and never talks, and she says I talk too much, so we kind of blended, you know, opposites attract. And let's see, number 20, last one. Are you a sunrise person or a sunset person? I was trying to pick one. I like them both. I'm going to take the cheap way out and pick both. And for sunrise, every morning I read in the dining room at the table. And, you know, when I start reading, it's dark. And my favorite time is when I'm reading and that sun comes up over the horizon and then fills the entire dining room with light. I love it. I love it. Or when I'm walking to school at certain times during the school year when they start changing daylight savings time and all that kind of stuff, I'm walking as the sun's coming up. I'm walking to school. Or when I'm at school already and it's dark and then the sun comes up, where my desk sits, I can look through my door into across the hall to my neighboring teacher's room, and the sun comes up right through her window and it fills the rooms with sunlight, and that's kind of cool. And I think it's a beautiful time of the day. And then I love sunsets though too. Sitting on the porch with my wife and the sun's going down and the sky's turning all the blues and purples and pinks. That's really pretty. And the other day I like to go out to the cemetery and walk. It's quiet and peaceful. You know, you got big stretches where you can do laps. And we've got two cemeteries that are pretty close together, and one sits on the outside of town, and that's the one I was at. And so the other cemetery's out this way, and out this way is a farm field, and it was like a big terrace. Well, the sun went down, and it cast me in a shadow, but the sun was shining over the hill at the other cemetery, and it was super bright there, and it had darkened a little bit in my path where I was walking, and it was just a really cool effect. It was beautiful. And so, you know, I have an appreciation for both, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So that was the 20th question on Steve's 20 questions tag here, his nosy tag. And thank you, Steve, for creating that. I enjoyed this. It's always fun. I'm going to, here in the future, in the next week or two, I've got a couple more of these nosy tags that I plan on, random question tags I plan on doing. And so I'll come back with you with a couple of those. But thank you to Steve for creating this. And I hope BookTube, I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you have a good night and happy reading.